2024 Astrology Forecast. My name is Jasmina from Jasmina Astrology, and I have my beautiful amazing friends today with me. I have to excuse Hannah. She had a situation in her family, and Michaela is preparing for a great competition, so they have good excuses not to join us today. But I have great friends here: Fernanda from Brazil, Louisa from Portugal, and Nicholas from the USA. And I'm from Canada, so it is international panel.
Yeah.
um, so before we start to dive into what is happening with the astrological energies next year, I'll start with a quick introduction. So please, Fernanda, tell us a little few things about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you guys. It's good to be here as well. And I've been doing astrology for 10 years, probably longer, which is usually the case. We fall in love with astrology at a very early age. But I've been doing professionally for about 10 years. Got certificate from the law. And I've recently completed my MA in cultural astronomy and astrology as well. And it's just my passion, my absolute passion. I've been focusing more for a bit on highly sensitive people as well, and trying to use astrology lives as well. And it's just my passion. I mean, I don't know what everything to do with astrology, for charts and different techniques, and I love knowledge as well. I'm very mercurial. So I just love thoughts and ideas, and so it's great to be here and to think about 2024 in a more empowering way. About me that I forgot to mention, I love to work with constructive astrology, so it's all about using astrology for empowerment, and rather than a self-fulfilling prophecy of seeing things in a dark shade and feeling fearful. So I love to use astrology and interpret symbols in a way that allows us to negotiate with destiny a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes, and please check Fernanda's channels. She has great forecasts each week and many other things. I love her insights. And Louisa, now it's time for you. Quick introduction.
Hey everyone, it's Louisa. I go under the name of Feel Good Astrology. For me, very much like Fernanda actually. For me, it's all about feeling good, but not being a slave to your birth chart. Like there are lots of astrologers out there that want to be very fatalistic, and I think, yeah, we can look at our chart and look at our template and see, maybe what limits us, or how things might appear. But I also think that what we see is sometimes a bit of an illusion, and we've got a chance to really tap into the patterns and empower ourselves. So I'm all about empowerment too. And when I'm working with people, I'm really helping them to see the next step, or see a range of steps, and guide them through the process. Like Fernanda, I've been working professionally as an astrologer for 10 years, but I fell in love with it 30 years ago, going through my Chiron return, which says how old I am. But a bit embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, I worked as a business coach for years, so and I'm trained in hypnotherapy and NLP, so I use all of that and astrology. But I think astrology is such a great tool, so I'm massively in love with it. I love looking at the cycles and seeing almost like the waves of energy and what we can surf. I always see it as like waiting for that right moment and then surfing in on that sort of planetary energy. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Louisa. I know Louisa's channel is also amazing. She has also great guests for her forecasts. I had a pleasure to be one of her as well on multiple occasions, so please check her out. And last but not the least, Nicholas. He's alive on YouTube all the time with amazing insights. So please introduce yourself, Nicholas.
Hello, everyone out there. My name is Nicolas Polymenakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. I've been studying astrology for too long, I would say. I've been professional for at least 16 years now. I've been involved in the astrology community for that amount of time behind the scenes, from putting on conferences to helping out with webinars. and other things behind the scenes in the astrology world. Also have worked in astrology bookstores, pretty fluent in astrology books over the years. I'm pretty much self-taught, even though I have been through workshops and had some mentors. But I use different parts of astrology in my work, from Hellenistic, medieval to modern. And I also use other modalities that I incorporate with my clients, with my one-on-one work. Yes, I have a YouTube channel now for the last couple of years. I love doing it. I have fun on YouTube, also get serious, straightforward. I have a live call-in show, chart reading call-in show once a month on YouTube. And my website is sparklesofgold.com. And that's who I am.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, guys. First of all, I want to excuse, did I say it already? I did. Hannah and Michaela for not being today. But nevertheless, let's dig in the next year. As I'm a strong Gemini, first I want to say hi to everybody. So hi, Alex and Pernell and Esmeralda and Scorpio Muse and Linda, Georgiana. Thank you all for joining. I will be checking chat as much as I can, but when I dig into astrology, I go crazy. So a few words about me, just for you who don't know. I have been in astrology since I was a teenager, but practicing just in the recent few years. I've been studying under Steve Judd and met Uranian astrology. I'm currently studying Iranian astrology as something new and exciting for me. But overall, astrology was part of my life my whole life. So I want to start with the outer planets and just to see overall pictures what the outer planets are doing next year. So let's start with Pluto, which is the most interesting one. Pluto is going back to Pluto. Pluto's way back to Pluto. Back to Aquarius from Capricorn in January next year. And then he's going to dive in just on the 29th degree of Capricorn back from September to November next year. So, Fernanda, what are your thoughts about Pluto coming this final round in Capricorn and then finishing it and going to Aquarius for next 20 or so
Sure.
years?
I definitely think about Pluto tying up the knots, isn't it? It's like when we have a planet going, I mean, every planet has its retrogradation cycle, but when a planet keeps retrograding back into a sign and then forward to the next sign, I feel it's like there's something else that we need to revisit. There's something else that we need to do. So the transformations that we've been working since 2008 with Pluto going through Capricorn, we need to revisit. We're not ready yet to move on to Aquarius. So and as I always say as well, find where that's in your chart, because that's going to give you a better clue about what you're actually working with, personally speaking. But collectively speaking, I do see as like some knots that we need to, we still need to do some Capricornian clear up so we can prepare the ground for the Aquarian period of these Plutos. So this is one of the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about this. Back and forth that we're already seeing. I mean, this and next year is going to continue. So I'm ready for this stage, for this phase, to let go of the shadows of Capricorn and dive into the shadows of Aquarius as well. Because I think that's the invitation with Pluto, is like look into the dark side of that sign as well and reclaim your power in that arena. Where is Aquarius in your chart? What do you have any personal planets in Aquarius and so on? So that's going to be taking, the spotlight as well during this very long transit of Pluto in Aquarius. This is the first thing that really comes to my mind. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Louisa, give us a few thoughts. What do you think is the shadow side of Pluto in Aquarius?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, I always think with Pluto, we're always offered the sort of polarity of each sign. So, like with the Pluto in Capricorn, we've really seen the benefits of having corporations coming in and making things really big and really strong and stuff. And we've really seen the shadow side of that. I'm all like Fernanda was saying, it's been going into Aquarius and coming out, and it was like dangerously close. It's almost got its foot dipped in. And it's interesting, like over the last couple of years, especially with Saturn going into Aquarius first, we've had all these Aquarian topics on the table. So gender's become a huge thing, as is AI, you know, and making, like, especially things like cryptocurrency, and really sort of like connecting the world in a new way. And there's the invitation, like you're talking about the invitation. There's the invitation. Are we going to be better off fusing with the ideas of AI? But then the other side of Aquarius is very much about freedom and independence and the beat of your own drum. And so I'm already seeing a really strong polarization coming up, you know, like we're all working online. And so, you know, obviously we're coming across AI as much as or as little as we want, and it can be a really helpful tool. And yet it can lead us back into the sort of back door of Capricorn, like the Pluto and Capricorn times. You know, it could be a continuation. So I don't know. I think the nature of things is going to really break down. So like right now we've got countries. It wouldn't surprise me if the next real epoch for us in terms of how we're organized, like in populations and stuff, it'll be more about the companies that we're buying from rather than the countries that we're actually living in. Because I mean, I'm living as an expat in Portugal. I've been here for 6 years. But really, my relationship is not with the Portuguese government. My relationship is with my internet supplier, Netflix, YouTube, and so on and so forth. We have more to do with these great big agencies that are connecting us through technology. So I think that's going to really shift and shape things. I really don't know. And crypto as well. I mean, you know, like applying for a bank card here takes ages going through the system and everything. Yet you can get an online bank now that's not really associated with any country specifically. So I think countries are losing their grip, and I think big money and sort of technocracies are starting to organize us in a big way. And who knows where they go.
That's good. Nicholas, I want to ask you now, do you feel that we are going to be able to find a middle ground with this technology and AI, the common language? And I'm going to introduce the Jupiter trining Pluto next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, we're dealing with a transition, but really the common denominator is they're both Saturn ruled signs. I really feel that the subject and theme of control continues when we go into Pluto and Aquarius. I don't think there is a break. There's the appearance of breaking off from old structures. You would think from the Capricorn into Aquarius realm, but I think it becomes even farther dogmatic in the end. And whether it's corporations or countries with their hold and control, I think it's even more entrenched. I think the word think comes into mind of how people think, and whether they think for themselves or they are in a herd and sheep mentality or path. And I think for culturally, whether in countries in the world, I think that will be one of the biggest things. Is one free in their mind or not? Or do they think they're free or not? Right. And so we've seen the structures of control start to change more from a, let's say, earthy, organic sense into how we use this and how we use this with others. And we do this using the internet, right? And we've had several examples here. Louisa talking about banking systems and things changing over, moving away past what old structures were. You can feel like the freedom to have any bank beyond the borders, that kind of thing. And that is true in a sense, literally, with the technology. But I think there's a long-term challenge dealing with control, and I think people have to see where they stand in something like that. So when we get to a Jupiter Pluto situation, that's actually on paper, we like this, right? We are looking at a trine, and we are into things like this because we're so used to talking about squares and oppositions that are supposedly tough. So in one way, the type of probing and focus that Pluto can give to the vision of Jupiter, and we're dealing with air signs here, we're dealing with the vision of the mind, right? And then how Jupiter and Gemini, in a sense, pushes that forward and pushes past the boundaries. And Pluto can give it that focus and that times that obsession with that. But there is a deep probing, vision story here. And if someone can corral that into the world and really make use of that, I'm a big fan of trines. I am, but I think they get really lazy. I think it comes a little too easy, and I'm a Saturnian person in the end. And so you have to flex that muscle. You have to work that trine. So is it for two outer body planets? We're so used to dealing from 2008. We had major squares, so on and so forth. But we have this interesting situation coming up. I like it. I really do. But I think one needs focus and structure when using Pluto and Jupiter in a trine. So.
No, I like that. Yeah, it has to be manifested. It's manifested in some ways, because it can stay in our ideas and in our heads, and nothing really comes out of it. What do you girls think, Fernanda?
I'm just loving this conversation.
Yeah,
I love
me too.
It's got such nice flow. Thanks, Jasmina.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting, everything that you guys are saying, and agree. And I think because it's the last so much depth, and there's so many different topics that we can think that's clustered around Pluto as well. And so climate obviously is going to become more and more from the Aquarian effect. And I think definitely there about this Jupiter next stage from the Jupiter Pluto conjunction twin. So where are we headed with this going? And obviously they will be in different signs as well. So we moved on from Earth to Air. And another thing that as well when I think about that, and I think about planets will be doing trines and sextiles to each other in the next few years. The sense of acceleration, the history, humanity went through breakthrough, were able to communicate, and so obviously the digital and the internet communicate, how this is going to exchange as well. Big thing that be doing, and makes me think when you mentioned the trine as well. Yeah,
I love that. I wanted to, if I may.
Please, Louisa. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts.
I'd like to pick up on what Nicholas was saying about thinking, and what Fernanda was saying, like we are going into this kind of mental realm with all this air. And one of the things that's really occurred to me in the last couple of years is people are getting more rational and less feeling based, which like lots of people would say, well, that's really good, because we're considering things with a level head. And I have to say, when that comes up, the instinct part of me is like saying, hang on a second, this is dangerous territory. Because, you can, when we're all sort of boiled down to an equation and we're thinking things through in terms of numbers or systems. And Nicholas, you're right, like Aquarius is very Saturnian as well as, the Uranus. I mean, the thought control that's been going on over the last few years has been quite extreme, and the censorship that's going on. So it's okay for some narratives to be spoken about, and then others are really quite forcibly censored. This idea, oh no, that idea is not worth sharing, but this idea is. And I think it's rationalism that's allowed that to occur. And so I'm a little concerned. Okay. I'm excited too because I think we like you were saying, trines can get lazy. We do need a bit of choppiness to get us thinking and to get us really, really sort of feeling things and working through things at a really big stage. And I think what's going on right now is going to lead us to empowerment, but I think we're in for one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I do too. I think a lot of times, I think sometimes the way I look at Pluto from a ritualistic perspective, the type of sacredness that's involved with an underworld story and what happens there, and you take that kind of sacredness and magic, whether you do whatever types of work you're practitioners with, in the occult world, I'm involved in that. That's my life. privately. If I take that Plutonian perspective from that sense and I bring it to this Jupiterian spiritual quest, you could see what could happen culturally too. And a lot of this could happen, online. We do have people seeking meaning here for years here with Neptune being in Pisces, right? We have that kind of situation, right? But at the same time here on the mental level, on the mind level, on the community-based level, you could have this ritualistic sense here. But let's say we involve the vessel to hold that ritualistic sense with all of us communicating, and it's spiritual, it's online, and it's up. Whether someone's going to say virtual or AR or something else, that I could see that happening. And how that is used is key, right? Is it does one feel that they are in a sense of freedom and control without any rules there? Or do other people who control those types of vessels, they have their hands on it? And you might as well bet on that they're going to have hands on it. For me personally, let us not forget the human face-to-face physical quality of interacting. And I actually think that is where the insight is. That's where the revolution is. That's where it is. It's face-to-face, not like this, like physically, like back to where we primally and instinctually come from.
Yeah.
I want to make a digression. Sorry, Nicholas.
Yes.
Nicholas on his website has a list of local astrological communities you can join in person. Yeah, I want to. Now that you mentioned that, I want to make it.
It's something I'm building. Somebody wants to submit to that, but again, I think here we have to always kind of weigh the sides out. But for me, I'm looking at it personally in my life, or when I'm interacting with clients, or people I'm meeting in person. Again, we're coming out of a pandemic, and all those types of dynamics. I think if one were to use this Pluto Jupiter thing, and overall in the long term for the Pluto and Aquarius story, remember in the past we're dealing with French Revolution, we're dealing with stuff in the United States, the birth of this country and what it is. It's rebellious. It's not easy. We got to be real here. We're astrologers. We look back at history. We see what could happen here. But if someone's looking for the outlet, if someone's looking for the vessel where they feel connected, go back to looking to your face-to-face with your crew of people, the people that you love, or the people that you will run into that will, in a sense, you're subscribed to the same spiritual quest, right? This deep, powerful, regenerative quest that happens with Pluto and Jupiter. So that's just another way, to look at it. We want to have people, because we're going to talk Pluto. We as astrologers, many of us here in the beginning, we're introing, especially like Louisa and Fernanda are talking about the work and the way they practice as astrologers, in a sense, embodying things and help people so it's not fatalistic. Right? We have to be real with the transits, and we have to understand the past. At the same time, we're like, where are the continents? Where are the places where people can feel like they can be a part of themselves and part of something that's positive and that where we grow?
I like that. I like that very much, especially now that you mentioned Jupiter in that sense of of our belief system and stuff. Because Jupiter is moving to Gemini late May next year. So what will that bring in the sense of having the vision? Where are we going forward? He's not very comfortable in Gemini, but Gemini is full of information, full of mind work. So Fernanda, what do you think?
I think it's enhancing curiosity, isn't it? Like if we think about Jupiter as easy and energy in, I think Jupiter is more curiosity, more dialogue, conversations, potentially, as a way of inviting this energy into your life a little bit more as well. And again, because I work with clients a lot, I always say, bring that into your chart. Is that Jupiter going to be on your ascendant? Is that Jupiter going to 10th house? And, those are the areas that are going to be touched. Curiosity of expansion, of wanting to learn something new, or pick up a new role as well, if it's in your 6th house, or it really is important to ground that somewhere. But I do feel that our minds are going to want to expand in these like fundamental Gemini sort of ways as well.
We which actually connects very, very well with what Nicholas was saying about community and meeting in person with Pluto, community, you know, in Aquarius with this Jupiter in Gemini. We can see more
Yeah.
in people in person just getting in touch with themselves and, you know, as humans.
Well, you also the other reason of this is people's adrenal systems and their nervous systems. You know, it's like we're sitting in front of the computers here all the time. People are doom scrolling on TikTok, all this kind of stuff, right? But I think when you're in physical places, and I say this as a Mercury in Gemini, Venus in Gemini here, that physical and that type of thing, it moves thoughts out of the head and out of this part of the body and down, and you're doing that with other people. So it's like here we are talking right now, but if we were doing this conversation and we were walking in a park,
yes,
it's where how the information is and what it is and how we are interchanging with each other. So if we are going to get chatter, we're going to do this, well, we're doing it in another way. It just flows differently. And that's, you know, for me, that was another, I didn't say why, but that's a reason why I did for the physicalness here, because it goes back to the rationality thing Louisa was talking about. And, you know, I think if we looked at any internet comment section in the last 6 or 7 years in the polarization that's happened in the algorithms, it's the typical thing. If I had a beef with one of you and we were doing this and I was saying the worst things or coming across. Now, if we were face to face at the park, would I say that to you in that way? And would you say it to me in that way? And it wouldn't. It would be different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's more accountability, isn't it? That's the thing with the internet as well. There's like no accountability. It's like you don't even have to put your name on something and it just write whatever you want. Yeah.
And plus, beyond the transits, beyond wherever planet or what sign it is and stuff, nature rules everything. And we bow down to nature. We honor nature. And so if we're in that situation at the park, there's something about the trees in the sky and the breeze or the raindrops. That's magic.
That really is magic. Yeah,
it is. And it's like, and then, so if I had some conflict with one of you and there was a certain way that the sun rays came through, the birds or the crows were around, and you just don't notice it, but there, it's you're conscious of your environments, and then your body is this antenna and your subconscious and your thing. And so when you're interacting with people, everything shifts and changes. So people are, you know, they want change and they go up against government controls. I'm going to do this kind of stuff. Nothing's really ever changed in the end. If people want a movement to happen, or they want to do something in the community, or they feel like they need to change something, it still goes down to face on the streets, in the park, or by the river. You know, it's can't forget those things.
You heard it first here, guys. So next year, make sure that you go to the park. No, but it's connect more in person. That's the number one advice. Louisa, your thoughts on Jupiter and Gemini, and please, I want you to start with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus on April 20th, because I know it's your favorite part of next year. So
well, it's funny. Yeah, I am very excited about Jupiter conjunct Uranus, and I've got quite a few clients with that. Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, it's really great, and it's fantastic for anyone that's got a love of astrology and expanding the mind and all that. I'm so thrilled by it. Where did you want me to start? On the Jupiter conjunct Uranus, or to talk about Jupiter?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, I
Gemini?
think it's very important. We'll go back to Jupiter.
Okay. Well, I've been looking at where it is in the charts of my clients for probably about a year, and saying, look, it's time to get cracking. You know, if you've got an idea that you really want to bring out, or something that you're really passionate about, something where you've got a thirst for freedom that's growing within you, let's try and think of, you know, where you're going with it, and let's backtrack and let's plan it and let's get ready for it, because I think it's such a great energy, and it doesn't come around that often. And so I think, you know, a bit like surfing the waves. You know, I live just down the road from Nazaré, where they've got some of the biggest waves in the world. And so we see these surfers, they wait for the right time, and they don't just go out on their own. They've got loads of, like, they've got people going with them, safety crews and stuff like that. So they're planning the ascent to ride this wave. And, you know, I'll be honest, I don't think you should have to launch things at a particular time. But if you can see that something's going to work in your chart and there's a lovely resonance, I just think that wave you start to feel it a long time ago, especially empathic. Like if you've got empathic clients, they feel things before they happen a really long time, you know, ahead of time. So, yeah, I've been working with people to get them ready for it, in particular, people that I know who are working online, you know, working with digital products, and working in the fields of expansion. And it's not too late, is what I would say. You know, if you've got a great idea and you've got an idea that you really want to share, and something in particular, if it's a new way of thinking, in particular, if it flattens a curve between people, you know, like it's not sort of like a pyramid, but it's more flat and accessible for people, then do it. I mean, I'm just so excited by it. I do also think that it could cause
I just want to use this opportunity to tell everybody, if they want more insights about how is this major aspect affecting their lives, they can contact any of us and for more detail in depth, because it's a potential, it's a very good potential potent energy for you to. It's like a great opportunity, you know. So don't waste it. Don't waste this opportunity. Make sure that you know how it can work for you particularly first. Just I want to make a note. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it is really beautiful, and I think it could really shift banking and shift money in quite a big way, and I think there's going to be a lot of changes around that time. I don't think it's just us that needs to rise to the occasion. I think there's going to be a lot of shifts coming in quite quickly in quick succession, and of course, like Jupiter energy and Uranus energy, there's a whole dollop of consciousness with that, isn't it? Sort of expansion and also shock, and also, you know, very much about liberation and stuff. So I think a lot more ideas might be accepted by people. People might be questioning their truths around that time and leading up to that time. So I think there is an expansion even when people aren't even looking for it. You know, we are coming into a time where things are just, things are changing. You know, the grip on reality that we might be expecting is shifting. And I'm not sort of naive enough. I like going back to what Nicholas was saying earlier, things will appear to be more free. I'm still sure there's going to be a hand above it controlling things. So again, like if you are looking for freedom, you might have to think in terms of independence. Like Jupiter and Uranus are also very, very independent. So your question might be, how can I feel great? How can I feel empowered and independent in my life, even when I'm in this world?
It's a tangible energy, Louisa, right? It's in Taurus. So it can be very tangible, guys. It's not something, you know, it can be very real for you. Manifest in that sense.
Sorry, I kind of went a bit sort of romantic on it there.
Okay.
I'm surprised that it burst into song.
No problem.
Hannah's joining us.
Is it? No, she's just saying hi. She said she's going to say hi, Hannah.
Shout out to Hannah. Hello, Hannah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, so we're okay, yeah. You know, I'm excited about it too. As people who know me and watch my channel, I'm always been talking to my people who have fixed angles in their chart and the journey that they've been on since 2018. A lot of action that's happened in fixed signs. These eclipses that just got finished in Scorpio and Taurus, and you know, once Jupiter goes forward here on the 30th of December, then we have, you know, Pluto's going to go into Aquarius January 20th, and then it's in January where Uranus is going to station direct, and now we pretty much have all the outer body planets moving, and we're kind of going towards this moment of this conjunction. So I feel it's a very applicable period, especially for those who have things in fixed signs, where you, after some of the trials and challenges and the disruptions of the last so many years, where at this point you can kind of go with the flow of Uranus, and hopefully you're getting used to it, especially if you're a Taurus. Hopefully you've gotten used to movement, because you don't want things to move and you like things steady. And so you could feel like you're a little bit of aware of this and use this conjunction in this moment symbolically. It's really sets up something for a deeper, longer story. But if we were to think about what Jupiter brings, a vision, what Uranus brings at times was something that is liberating. that you could find something there and use that. And sometimes, depending on the person's chart or in the world, you can kind of see things like this happen in rapid succession. Jupiter enhancing Uranus in the changes and the out of the blue, right? But really, I think about the buoyancy of Jupiter and the innovative, radical way of looking and moving is Uranus, and these two moving together in a sign that is Venus ruled.
Yeah.
And so if we're tracking this, we always want to see, where Venus is at the time, or where Venus will be for the next so many months, or so on and so forth. If I'm correct here, I think maybe we can pull up a chart or something like that. But like, we could let's do that. I'm curious. Where's Venus the day
in Aries?
that
I think Venus would be in Aries, yeah.
And she's in a conjunction with Chiron.
That's right, and we're right around let's say the date for everybody, the exact date that the conjunction happens.
April 20th.
Yes,
or 21st in Europe.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're dealing with the change of the season, by the way, and not only that, it was several weeks before this, since we're talking about Aries, that we had a major eclipse with Chiron. It was the April 8th, April 9th eclipse that's going to happen.
I'm going to pull the eclipses later. I have charts for them. Yeah.
So if one is looking for change in their world, or they've been waiting to do something, and so on and so forth, this is the time. Fernanda, I'm really curious from your perspective. I'm like, what do you think about all this?
Sure. I'm very excited about the Jupiter Uranus as well. I do like to think about shadow sides of transits because I don't like to be confused, rather than, to have a positive to interpret things with a more empowering mind, but I don't like to be thought of as a point. So I like about shadows as well. And I'm preparing a talk about Jupiter in weekend. So I've been doing quite a lot of research on it, reading different material and seeing what other astrologers' visions is. And I can't help but be excited about this transit as well, because there's a lot of breakthroughs as well that gets touched by the potentials of this transit. But some of the things that comes to mind with these transits doing is if you've been working on an idea in your area, in your field, do it. This is the time to get breakthroughs and to get. I've been reading Richard Tarnas, and the amount of the scientific breakthroughs, breakthroughs in human rights, art, music, like all sorts of different areas there that we can see breakthroughs and innovations. So think about what area you're in, where that Jupiter Uranus is in your chart. I saw Michelle saying, "Oh, am I going to be on my descendant through partnerships?" That could be someone that's going to do something with you that can revolutionize something that you're already doing and working on. So don't fear not. Try to see and embrace this energy, bring this energy into your life a little bit more. So this film, one of the imageries I got from Tarnas is very interesting. Statue of Liberty given by the French to the USA when Jupiter joined, and obviously to celebrate the American happened when Jupiter Uranus was conjunct, and there is expanding freedom, etc. I really think I love what you're saying, Louisa, of the waves and the big waiting for the right moments, and etc. See astrology as that also great wave that we can get a huge ride on. But why not take a ride and move?
I'm just thinking. I think it's expansion of awareness. Like we're gonna have like a awareness on a next level, so we can make better decisions in this way. And you probably won't lose anything, but you also won't win anything if you just let it pass by, which is a shame, kind of a thing.
Well, if you're a stubborn fixed sign too, and you still haven't figured out the last couple of years that certain things have to change, and you are sitting around and you're just doing it, it's coming for you anyway. It's most likely you're gonna have some situations in your world that you will actually have to you have to change. I mean,
Yes.
you got to be real about it, and it's one of these things where for some people who are in tough situations, or let's say they don't have certain control in their lives of certain things, right? We see this happen with our clients and in the outside world that's reflected outside of us, situations that bring us something we have to move and change, and we didn't want to, or we didn't even think about it. But it can work in that way too, and since if you're watching this now and later, and let's say you fall in that category, now you got a little bit of clue. It's to know that's the forecast. You're kind of going to get possibly ready. Where is this going to go from? And like Fernanda was talking about, like to look to where it is in your chart. You have anything at 20, 21, 22 degrees fixed, that kind of thing. And just to say out loud too, Fernanda, am I correct by saying what you're referencing with Richard is from his Cosmos and Psyche book, correct?
Yeah.
And yes, for people out there who don't know that book, definitely jump in on that book. So
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
Louisa,
love it.
you're gonna. Yeah,
I will love it because I love observing patterns so much. One thing, just I heard reference to it by both of you, and or all of you. I really do think if we don't use the energy, it uses us. So like when I see this, I always think like there's a flood of Uranus, Jupiter energy. It's change energy, it's expansion energy. Could be really, really shocking. I always think, okay, where can I find the excitement and enthusiasm to use that energy so there's no surplus of it? So like as it's washing over me, I've got like these pots and pans ready to capture all the energy, and there's a project just waiting to birth from it. But like for people who are like, oh no, I don't like change, it kind of washes over them and it kind of takes them out. I always think, when that change energy is coming close to our charts, we better have something to engage with it, because if not, like and I don't want to get all fatalistic around it and say it will definitely happen, because I don't think that's helpful. But I think if we're not engaged in evolution, when there's an evolutionary thing happening, then other stuff comes in externally that forces that change in us. It forces us to think about it, or at least consider it or notice it. So I think we need to actively and proactively work with that energy.
Absolutely. Agree.
I just want to remind people again, this is happening in Taurus, and it's Venus ruled. If one is trying to figure this out, or what it is, I talk about this too all the time on my channel, is living through your senses and getting reminded of your five senses and how you engage with the world and what that is. It's a relational thing here in the end because of a Venus ruled sign. So see, it's like, how do I do this? Sometimes we're looking for the big bang and the big thing, right? It could be that way. A lot of times I think this goes back to my theme, I guess, of today, as nature and what nature gives us and how we are constantly interacting. Our senses are engaged. You can pick one sense, your sense of smell, which never turns off, by the way. And so it's like, that in itself, let's say we were to like try to remediate or use this like thing, and like this Jupiter Uranus thing, this new something, this new vision, like what are your senses telling you? What's your sense of smell telling you? You might have liked a certain type of flower and smell, but you find something new and it sets you off on a path, and then it hits you creatively. Again, it sounds simple, but your senses here are huge because of a Venus ruled aspect, right? So
I like that.
Values as well, your core values.
Yes. I love that.
And it's because, as you mentioned, planets are going to start going direct in the beginning of the year until the mid-year. So you're going to have this energy of going forward and wanting to do things and getting in touch. So being more aware and just feel everything externally, not just internally as we did. I mean, this year, and the ending of this year is everything is just so hard for many people. So I think it's going to be like a sense of relief and hope with this Gemini Jupiter as well, like a sense of hope for better tomorrow. I know there's many other things we can talk about. I want to talk about eclipses because I think everybody wants to know about eclipses a little bit. But if you want to have any thoughts on any other things that you want to mention before we turn to eclipses regarding our thoughts?
I agreed when Fernanda said, and our core values, and I said yes, yes, and I felt like my yes cut her off from actually saying what she was going to say, because I really love like the sort of Taurus Venus energy, and I think of like the second house. So many people talk about it in terms of money and resources, and I always think it's also where we value ourselves, and I wondered if that's where you were going. I was wondering what you were going to say about core values.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I might be guessing it
I think
for different reasons.
it's like valuing, but also making the decision values when we don't know values are, and we do that like we're not sure and we don't know how to make a decision about. And I think getting to the core value, like making lists, really like getting very serious about your core values makes a huge difference, because you understand that freedom is equal to authenticity, or and life that will really make sense to any structures around you that will be authentic. But yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the North Node in Aries still being in Aries all next year, we're gonna have to feel that authenticity and go that way for sure. That's gonna be one of our things to focus on next year. Any thoughts on anything else before we go to eclipses? I wanna. There's many things. I know Neptune is sextiling Jupiter. Then we have so many Jupiter. Jupiter is a big, has a big role next year.
I like you gave us a list of things that you wanted us to consider and
Sure.
talk about.
Yes,
and so
yes.
I drew up the chart for Neptune sextile Jupiter and Jupiter moving into Gemini, and then Jupiter trine Pluto, and they're all happening just 11 days apart.
Yeah.
And it starts on the day of the full moon. So just before Neptune goes sextile Jupiter, there's the full moon in Sagittarius. And so I guess all I wanted to really sort of say was it's a very sort of big 11 days. And obviously it starts with, the full moon in Sagittarius. And of course, Sagittarius, the ruler is Jupiter. And the very same day, Jupiter is in a sextile with Neptune, both at the anuretic degree, both at 29 degrees, sort of inching, getting ready to change energy, but not quite. It just feels like I'm a Sagittarius with moon in Pisces, so I'm kind of fascinated and excited by all this sort of like Jupiter Neptune sort of energy. I love that so much, because it feels like it's my language, or it feels like it's my recipe. But nice. I think things are.
Just a note, Louisa. This is happening all end of May next year, so you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Starts on the 23rd of May. That's when the full moon and Neptune sextile Jupiter is happening. Then Jupiter into Gemini is on the 26th of May, and the 3rd of June for Jupiter trine Pluto. But I'm aware that I'm sat in Europe, and you guys are all in America, or the American continent. So the days might be a little bit behind, but it's a very interesting time, because there's also the sextiles that are being made to Pluto. So like on the day of the full moon and Neptune sextile Jupiter, there's so this stuff at early Sag, early Aquarius, the end of Pisces, almost the beginning of Aries. But at the same time, Jupiter is in a conjunction with Venus and with the sun as well. So it's like really supersonic. So you've got the sun, the moon, you've got Venus and Mercury, all working together. These really, really personal planets working with Pluto and Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter being a bridge, kind of helping all the unconscious stuff reach us. I just think it's going to be really busy, and I think it's going to open doorways.
I can see many new movies coming out that way.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, it could really sort of bring up some real deep imagination, I think.
There's a Mercury conjunction with the Sun there on the 2nd too, so the 11 days. There's a lot that happens.
Yeah. Mad.
It's in the beginning of May where Pluto is in Aquarius and stations to go retrograde, so that starts its retrograde motion. And then I think there's a Saturn station in June.
May
Where Saturn, there's so much that happens in that period of time. You know, it's enough that already happens when like a sign, like a say we pick Jupiter, right, and it leaves the sign after being in a year and it enters a new one. That's enough, right? It's Jupiterian, but to have that concentration of aspects and types of things within 30 days, and the concentrated that you were talking about, Louisa, is a lot of movement. And who better to sell it than you? Is saying, what did you say? You're a Sagittarian?
Moon in Pisces.
Yeah.
I've got all fixed angles that you were talking about as well, Nicholas. So
yeah.
So I'm ready for some good change.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think that the spring and beginning of the summer is going to be really wow. Like starting at the end of April and then May and June is going to be highlighted for me.
And like imagine the consciousness that's going to be born into the world at that time. Like imagine all the kids coming through at that time. And where we're going to be as the planets progress and move on. I mean, these guys are shaping things.
Who are the new leaders with Pluto and Capricorn kids, just like mine? I'm scared. Pluto and Capricorn kids are one thing. Yeah, awesome. Okay, let me try to share eclipses. Okay, do you guys? Sorry, Fernanda and Nicholas, please, if you have any thoughts on this, what Louisa started.
I just love that the full moon in Sagittarius that you're talking about, Louise, is also sextile and trine from the sun. It's a full moon that will be happening at 2 degrees.
Yeah.
And 2 degrees Aquarius as well. So
yes.
Yeah, just adds to this feeling. I don't know. I see trines as set. I think it was Bernadette Brady who said rules. And I agree with you as well, Nicholas, that you get lazy. You can also accelerate things. Somehow, I don't know. So I thought that the configuration there as well in these 11 points.
Yeah, that full moon is going to be directed on my moon and Mercury in Gemini, 2 degrees.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Let's see how that accelerates. Anyway, a personal thought. Today's full moon is also very powerful, very strong, very hard moon.
Debates and conversations.
It's pretty much the opposite to what's happening.
Yes,
it's like 6 months away, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Okay.
The 8th of April is insane. That eclipse.
Yeah, especially for the United States. I'm flying to Texas to watch the total to get the 100% total.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the lunar eclipse in March, on the 25th of March. I hope you see the chart. I made it. So, Fernanda, do you want to start with this one? Some thoughts?
Yeah, let me get it here as well. It's the 25th of March, isn't it? I haven't got my glasses.
Yes.
See.
Sorry. So
Okay.
It's happening at 5 degrees.
This is a moon in Libra.
Yes.
5 degrees Libra.
Yes.
You want to get someone first there, and then I'll contribute.
Okay, Nicholas, do you want to start?
Anyone else that's got some?
Well, for North America, this eclipse pretty much starts all the way towards Mazatlan and goes through Texas and through Middle America, all the way to the northeast of America, where people, if you are in those places, you could see a 100% total eclipse. If you have never done this in your life, I suggest doing it. Don't be freaked out about it, even though it is weird experiencing it. And so we'll just mention that it's happening really through the big part of the United States, almost like cutting it in half. So I am a big Chiron user in my world and with my clients. Last couple of years, especially, this is a huge eclipse in this space, and the one before in general with spring with Chiron. But I think it's interesting these degrees that are happening here. In a sense, this is in one odd way connected to this full moon that's today, by degree. But I, with these nodes in Aries and in Libra, I am looking to where Venus and Mars is always to see what is happening with those two planets and how they are relating to themselves or to each other. And we have it all happening in Pisces during this lunation. I'm going to talk positively about it and say that if one were to sit in the Piscean realm of things and have a nice container for all of that, that it's interesting, the sense of like what we talked about a lot. It's a big Jupiter year next year in the end, isn't it? It's like we keep coming back to this place.
Yeah.
Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces. We have this thing, and it's like if we are in that place where Piscean energies balance, Mars and Venus in the sense are, let's say they're in certain places and they were flowing and they're in these signs. I don't want to talk about essential dignities here and all that kind of stuff because you could take that for what you want. But this could be really great and a really nice sort of vacation-y type of vibe, I think, because of where Mars and Venus is. Again, you have to look at your individual chart here to see if that's the case. If you're one of those people, and I know, and I'll be done here in a second. If you're one of these people, Aries and Libra, or you have that on the ascendant, this could be, eclipses are just in general, I think, tough because of what has a tendency to get flushed out on the south node end of things, and the amount of incoming energy that comes in on a north node, positive or negative. Let's not think about bad or good. Just saying the dynamics that happen here with eclipses, and then we're looking at where Venus and Mars is as the rulers of this. You can feel completely blasted out, lost at sea, or you could be in a meditative pose of connecting and feeling good. So that's just my quick thoughts on this. So.
Nice.
Awesome. Louisa, Fernanda, do you have any thoughts on this eclipse?
Yeah. More now, so I can give a little contribution here as well. A lot of things that we're learning to upgrade and etc. And that south node in Libra with the as well. So we're sort of letting go of the shadows of Libra. That's one of the ways I think about, or we have an opportunity. There's a wave coming. We can get right to like Libra applies to your life. You tend to be a people pleaser. If you tend to be a, not individual, not living your authenticity in some way, will be the time for you to deal with whatever comes up for you. So having Venus, the ruler of the moon, during there's a little bit of a structure in that energy as well, taking that very seriously, taking that process very seriously. That's Saturn for us, isn't it? It's like, seriously, really focus, this energy, be very serious about your values, be about the things that you want to. Or, going your own way, having courage, etc. All the things that the North Node in Aries are kind of pointing out as well. But it's also to that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, isn't it? Because Jupiter and Uranus are like, so I think Jupiter being the ruler of all the Piscean, again, this full moon eclipse could also come in something that we're already kind of going to be dealing with that Jupiter-Uranus as well. Full moon eclipses, they tend to be big discharge of energy, big something happening. So just to keep an eye to see what's happening around you, because it will become these energies as well. What do you think, Louise?
I really love what you guys have contributed a lot, in particular talking about Venus and Mars as well. I mean, Venus is working quite well with Venus and Saturn are in a sextile with Jupiter and Uranus on the 25th of March. You know, so yeah, I do feel that like what you're saying, Fernanda, in terms of our core values could be really worked quite seriously at that time. I'm always really amazed at how tired out I get around the time of the eclipses and how many clients go through some really big shifts. And I'm always surprised at the shifts I go through, because often I think I forget to look at my own chart and forget to sort of plan my own stuff, do it for everyone else, as I'm sure it is for all of you as well. But what occurs to me, like with oppositions, I'm always thinking we're in a place of polarity. We get pulled apart, forced apart, ripped apart. I always think we get to see ourselves in the mirror if we dare ourselves to look. You know, so talking about the fear and our shadow side, I think is a really good thing about this. So I really think this first penumbral lunar eclipse is going to absolutely help us see where we're not completely integrated. It's going to help us see where we're falling apart. And it's not going to pull any punches. I mean, it's not, it's, like the node is so close to Chiron, and within 2 weeks at the total eclipse, the one that Nicholas is talking about going to see in Texas. I mean, that eclipse,
I'm going to pull it next. I have charts for all four. I'm going to pull the solar one next.
I mean that solar one, it's all at 19 degrees 24. It's exact. I've never really seen a chart that exact before. So I really think this 2 weeks is leading us up to there. It's kind of pulling us apart to really create a strong dynamic for us to find our way back.
Here is that one. Look at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's with the retrograde Mercury. It's Chiron there.
Yes,
it's that obviously when we're leading up to eclipse season, it's for people out there, just so you know, eclipses happen every 6 months. They happen in pairs, new and full moon, 2 weeks. So, but yeah, here, just one thing about the last eclipse we were looking at,
I'm going back.
Imagery in my mind, it was like, you don't have to put it back, but I was, this Piscean and Taurus connection, it's like if anything's going on, whether if someone's out there, it's difficult or not. If you can you be in the garden and is there a running fountain going on? Is the water trickling in the background? It's something, something where water is lapping against earth. There's something beautiful about all that. I mean, regardless, it's intense. Eclipses are intense, but if we think about this comes into the sensory view of things. If you haven't figured this out, on Venus ruled. So, it's a thing where, let's just say that, like, imagery wise.
There's also here, there are in conjunctions with the south node between Venus and Jupiter, like a yod is here.
Yeah, I'm saying this because I'm always looking for the thing or a place for someone, if it's difficult for them to go hide out in, right? Or to go chill in. So water and earth. Right.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So anyway, so April 8th, right? We're talking about this. Oh, wow. I
think it's going to be visible here in Canada, where I am, by Niagara Falls.
You'll actually catch it. Yeah. Like, so basically that middle part of the United States I'm talking about, it's 100% totality. But if you're out of those places, you still get to see it's happening. You won't see the 100%, but it will be there. And you think about things here. When stuff like this happens in the world, where massive amounts of people are engaged with their body and their senses at the same time, it's something that is beyond themselves.
That is amazing. I love where you're going there.
Yeah, and some people, it's hard. It's difficult. Other people are in awe. People are in between. people feel this when they're watching a total eclipse. Like you're in the beginning, you're freaking out because all of a sudden it's turning dark and the birds are starting to freak out, and in your senses, everything starts to get discombobulated, and you're hitting this place of like something's off. Now, some people can feel panic. Some people can feel like they're, they feel like they're on psychedelics, but they haven't taken anything. Then there's the people who are taking psychedelics and doing it, but from a just pure human view, like what that is. And if you think about that, and then you think about it symbolically in your own life, in your own chart, like things feel separated, the light gets shut out, right? And then slowly comes back, and there's this moment where, where it's supposed to be bright and light, it isn't. And in there, is there a piece of insight? Is there a washing away? Is there, this kind of something here? So anyway, to have, solar has always happened on a new moon, but still it's new, but something gets cut out, right? And if we're dealing with something in a Mars-based sign, and, we have a Mars-Saturn conjunction in here, I don't feel the best about this one overall. Like, I think it's a hard one. And
Mars is conjunct Saturn. I don't like that. I have it in my own chart.
Yes.
It could be very difficult, right? And
there's Chiron involved. So I'm curious, like, well, who else?
Yeah, I mean, it's now the time to share with you that when this total eclipse happens, it's right on my natal Chiron.
Wow.
Okay.
To half a degree.
Wow.
Hopefully, I think it's the last half. Yeah. And I think, for people going through their Chiron return right now, it's a real watershed moment. It's a time. I mean, we were both talking about empowerment at the start, me and you, Fernanda, weren't we? If ever there was a time to get your empowerment sorted out, this is the eclipse to really prepare for, be working on it. Don't let it take you by surprise.
Not take it lightly.
Yeah, not this one. We have clusters of planets. Just everything is on. Look how the energy is so much in one place, right? Like if in your charts, if you look at your charts, right, it's going to be really in one sector of your life. It's going to be really strong. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Fernanda?
I think you're there. Very interesting. Jasmina, talking about look where chart, because it's like a spotlight. There's this huge spotlight in a specific quality of your chart, a specific area, specific and absolutely agree with you. It's not to take lightly. There's something really powerful, really, and there's a lot of work that we can do with this, because we have this sort of construct outlook, which I thinking of, but what do we do with Mars? We do martial arts, so is it time for martial arts, like really? And whatever pain comes up as well with that light on term is what we can offer to the world, our gifts that can bind through that as well. And being retro is something that we assess and understand more, because we have this chance so I mean, a powerful time.
I would actually encourage people to dance. I don't know what you guys think, but with this Saturn and Mars in Pisces, I would actually dance and release that energy through dancing.
What's kind of goes back to what Fernanda said, the example of martial arts, a system that one is using to move through. So Saturn to support the system. Again, I'm into the embodied approach too. I mean, I am into it. Like, how can one remediate this and use Saturn and Mars and Pisces, And so let me just backtrack here. I actually don't suggest people doing heavy ritualistic work on this day. And if you're into making astrological talismans and doing magic and you're doing that kind of stuff, I wouldn't even mess with this. I wouldn't mess with any eclipse when it comes to that, unless you were using it for darker purposes. But it's like, you don't want to even do that. But it's like on the other end, but to the movement, like Fernanda is mentioning, Jasmina, you dance, but martial art, to have a system though, something that is Saturnian, that how Mars and Saturn can work together to build towards something. To build towards what? To build towards something Piscean. And you know, like, and then go, where do we go from there? We go look to the ruler of Pisces. Where do we end up? We're back in the garden. Okay, so you know, it's like it's this movement, Fernanda. I really like what you said from the martial art piece, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily mean, you know, praying mantis, kung fu, or whatever else. It could be just somatic movement. You're by somatic, you know, work, your body and stuff. So, Louisa, what do you think about? I mean, I keep talking.
Well, also the Mars and Saturn are very, very close to my Moon and Jupiter conjunction. So I think it's time to get really.
You're up for a ride next year, Louisa.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm up for the challenge. I'm really ready for it.
Nice.
I think I was talking to ages ago. In fact, when you and I were talking, Jasmina, I think with Alexandra Jowett, she was saying that as Saturn went into the sign of Pisces, a famous astrologer from the UK, who she actually died as this Saturn went into Pisces, but she was known as this astrologer who was very woo-woo. You know, her name, she was called Mystic Meg, and everyone knew her, and she was like really sort of like woo-woo and really kind of I don't know, she had a funny reputation, I guess. And I think people were saying when Saturn went into the sign of Pisces, it was like the death of woo-woo, like, you know, that you can't be kind of flimsy magical or pseudo magical anymore. Like Saturn could lend some credibility to alternative ways of thinking and being, and using energy work and healing. So actually, I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, you know, Saturn on my moon doesn't feel that comfortable. I remember it from last time, but actually I also see it as an opportunity to stabilize my emotions, to not be led by them necessarily, to have some direct self-inquiry. The thing that I just noticed about this chart, I can see, Jasmina, you've got you know, a lot of asteroids in, and I used like Ceres and Vesta and Pallas Athena and Juno, for instance. But if you take them out and you just look at the core planets, including Pluto, I know he's been deregulated and whatnot, poor Pluto, I love Pluto, but it goes from Pluto in Aquarius right the way through to Uranus. Everything is in that section. It's so concentrated, really lopsided. So I really think, you know, being aware of what's going on in your chart in those areas is vital. And I can see I haven't done enough preparation.
No, it's okay.
It's okay, but you know, we're gonna go back to you. I'm even gonna message you around this time, Louise. I'm like, how did it go? Like, what happened?
But if you think this is bad, we should get Alexandra in, because Alexandra, who I just mentioned, she's born 2 months after me, so and she's actually a Pisces. So we've got a lot of similar stuff going on.
I'm sure we're going to talk more about it when it comes closer to that time to support you guys.
Well, you definitely, Louisa, have a Jupiterian attitude towards it all. Like, I'm ready for it. I'm gonna, you know, let's go into it. And I'm like, okay, just point that out. And fair play to you, by the way. And for anybody who's in this situation in their late 40s, early 50s, who are going through the Chiron return, you know. Just if you're out there, do some more reading on Chiron, deal with, you know, certain things or modalities or other types of stuff that deal with the separated wound itself and how you incorporate that and welcome and nurture that separated wound itself and back to your thing. You know, this just a brief Chiron thing. If you're out there, you know, this definitely an imprint of that kind of work.
I have to add something because Fernanda has great videos of Chiron. Please check it out on her YouTube channel. No, you do. I listen to everything, guys. I'm always, even with, anyway, I'm always in tune with what you guys have to say because it's.
Yeah, you're a Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Does it show? Anyway, okay, let's move on to the.
Can I just say one more thing about Chiron? I love what you were saying there, Nicholas and Fernanda. I will check out your playlist as well. I've recorded a lot about Chiron. I love Chiron, and I love the story. I find it really empowering because at one level he's the wounded healer, but he also masters the pain. But he does it by making himself completely vulnerable. So he's in agony. He's he's kind of immortal or semi-immortal. I can't quite remember. But he swaps his immortality with a human, so the human gets the immortality. So he gives away one of his greatest gifts. He makes himself completely vulnerable, and in that moment, when he becomes mortal, he dies from his wound, but he's out of pain. So I really see that, like, when we make ourselves really vulnerable and feel it, like you were talking, Nicholas, like really feel like what's going on and get to the core of it, it moves, it changes, and then it's released, and then we're a master of it. We have mastery. And I also see Chiron as being leading us into eldership. I feel a bit young to be an elder, but I feel like I'm an elder in training, and I think the world needs elders. So yeah, I think this could be a really, really good time for anyone that really wants to make a difference and wants to slay those dragons and then show up in their communities and help people. Then this is the time.
Yeah,
But I think magic around that time.
I think it's very interesting where we ended up with this, because typically especially Western culture in the world, what vulnerability means is actually downplayed. A lot sometimes it's like, and especially from the more masculine white man perspective. There's a history of this, of suppression of wounds. And so when someone hears vulnerability, or it's a man that hears it, this is changing, by the way, but a man hears it, to be vulnerable, it's the opposite of what being powerful is in many people's minds.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm in agreement with what you're saying, because you let yourself into vulnerability, it's actually one of the most powerful things one can do. And we're dealing with this in a Mars-based sign in Aries, right? So we typically have this imagery of Aries and what it is. But luckily enough, even though it doesn't seem like it's lucky, but do we wish that Mars was in Aries in this transit? Or is it just so happens to be that Mars and Saturn are in Pisces? And then if one were to walk that way and to keep following dispositorship of the rulers, where we end up, right? So it's like, for me, I think it's interesting when we deal with Chiron and wounds and stuff, that vulnerability by the way, let's just be real about this. You have, in order to be the vulnerable and to be authentic in that place and the power that comes there, you need a place that's safe to do it.
Yeah.
There's many people there that are hurt and vulnerable, and they are in situations where they have to have sword and shield.
Yeah.
They have to. It's survival, right? But if one has the outlets and the vessels, and they work with people, or they're doing whatever kind of work, and they find that to be vulnerable is I probably would say is the most powerful thing a human being can do for themselves, and for if it's the byproduct of that, like how they integrate with community.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just saying this too, as a straight guy who deals with stories with this, and I'm dating myself here. I'm going through a Chiron return here. I'm in my early 50s. It's, what comes up in these situations, and clients that I've talked to that have been men who are in this particular transit, and for the first time in their life, maybe have been, like, in a sense, forced to be vulnerable, broken, literally physically broken, where things manifested physically in their bodies, or their bodies are changing, and they're in this place, and then they're starting to walk this way, right? So I just want to say that to what you said, Louisa, about what you said, to back you up there about vulnerability and how powerful it is, and
oh wow,
important it is.
It's not easy, guys. Yeah, I know. Chiron is I had a great talk with Tom yesterday about Chiron and his story. It's also on YouTube if you want to check it. It's very hard. And I lost my mom during her Chiron return. So, so not being, it's hard to accept, because it's all about acceptance. You can't change these things. So, being able to accept and then work on them. And anyway, it's Chiron it's very hard. It's heavy. It really is. So kudos to you who are going through this Chiron return. guys, if you need any support, let us know in any way.
I'm gonna go watch Fernanda's videos. I'm gonna
Yeah.
There you go.
And Nicholas, I didn't realise you'd gone there before me. Bless you. You look great.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I was just talking, and yesterday I had a talk about Chiron. I was crying. That's how it was really touching. Anyway, so this is the spring eclipses. We have a sense of the powers within them. Let's move to the this one. Okay, the fall. September 17th, we have another eclipse. This one is happening in Pisces, 25 degrees, very close to Neptune. What do we have to say about this one?
When's that? The 17th of September?
Yeah, 17th of September. We have...
Could be 17th, it could be 18th for some people.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is, I cast it for my city, sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, so we have sextile to Uranus. As a Saturn is almost there. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one?
Interesting one, isn't it? It's an interesting will be in Gemini. It's like shift from what we've been used to. So the full moon eclipse will be Jupiter in Gemini, which will see with the I find full moons immutable really intense in some ways. They're and it has a very different energy quality from the last, for example, and the eclipses we had in Scorpio as well. And another configuration that calls my attention here is a grand Pluto in Capricorn and Aries. Yeah,
that's lovely.
In Earth, grounding.
Yeah, which could be considered tight with as well, right? Yeah.
So
who knows? Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm
more comfortable than the previous one.
Yes, I like this one.
I'm transported back into the garden that Nicholas talks about, because I mean I've been admiring the Earth grand trines that we've had over the summer. Obviously, like Uranus and Pluto have been the backbone of them, and then we had the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars, all like lining up and participating in it. And so we've got a repeat of that. So it's great that is reenacted, with the sun in there, really supporting. Yeah. I mean, the moon and Neptune, I think, what day does this occur on? On a Wednesday. Well, that's good. I'm always a bit worried about full moons that occur at the end of the month, because I think of people getting paid and then going out and getting wasted. I think
especially with moon Neptune.
ERs, hospital rooms combined with
I mean, especially with like Neptune and the moon together in Pisces. I mean, it could be very boozy. I mean, you could absolutely use that beautiful energy to be as transcendent as you like, but I really think it could be a time when we deceive ourselves, and the grand Earth trine can really help ground us, so we know what's real and what's not. I think it's really important to really ask ourselves what's real and what's not around this time, and be mindful of where it is in Pisces. Like, I always think boundary issues, with Pisces, and obviously I've got a bit of a feeling for the Pisces moon, but especially with Neptune. I think it's really easy to take stuff on and not necessarily know who it belongs to. So you might feel something almost like a fog, and you just assume it's yours, but it might not be. So around that time, I would be asking myself, every feeling that I had come over me, I'd be asking, who does this belong to? Is this really mine? I think if you're quite dreamy or empathic or involved in some kind of gaslighting extravaganza at home, I'd be very mindful of this time to get very clear about what's yours and what's not. And actually, I think physical grounding would be really, really helpful. Back to the garden.
Nature, with water, because there's Pisces as well. So because again, the theme of garden and water, I like that, earth and water.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, for people who are quite like rational or maybe a bit more structured, this could be really quite a great energy. This could be quite an interesting time where you lose a bit of your grip. I guess a lot of it, like we've been saying all along, is it really depends how we want to use that and what's playing out in our chart.
I think what you just said is actually at the heart of this particular lunation and eclipse. Starting simple, we see the moon in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter in Gemini now, right?
Yeah.
Ruled by Mercury, which is completely opposite Saturn in his chart. When we deal with the rationalism and the details of Mercury and Virgo and having the Saturn opposition, yes, it actually could, in a sense, Saturn wants, it's kind of putting a stop sign into Mercury and Virgo, and where it flows, and just really dialed in on the small things, the little things, and chop wood, carry water, and the day by day, and the details and the system. But the system itself, possibly a little too much of this, and here comes this Piscean energy on the other end. I like to think sometimes, any signs and polarity points, they have the connection to each other and they're learning from each other, right? Especially when we're dealing with something that's an opposition, right? This is opposition, it's a full moon. So, how do you branch the two together? I think Pisces walks out the door with no plans, no container, no boundaries. These Pisces people, they sometimes have the luckiest stuff happen to them.
Yes.
So, but it's not all the time. You can't live that way all the time in this world. Here comes Virgo, like, hey, you need a compass, you need an app, you need a to-do list, you need the details so you can get through the day, right? On the other end, you have Virgo, who's completely dialed in on the details and cannot help but still work on the engine, constantly looking for a sense of perfection and purity, right?
Yeah.
And we know what happens when that gets off balance. It's like nervous system, anxiety, adrenals are fried, digestive issues for my Virgo people out there. If you're listening and watching, bring in the Piscean thing of letting go, right? Like you let go of this thing and you try to bring the two together. They need each other. But I think it's interesting when we look at this, we start where the dispositorships, and for people out there who don't know that, we're looking at the rulers of things and we're following that. We end up here in Mercury and Virgo across from Saturn. And by the way, just to say this, we just did this not too long ago, right? We had all the Virgo planets be across Saturn and hit trines and do all the other stuff with the outer bodies. So, this is a continuing story. If you have something like this mutable in your chart or whatever, like you can see this. So, how can you do Pisces and how can you do Virgo, right? And what does that mean to you in your own chart? I know we're starting off with, we see where Venus is here and we're looking other places, but I think you know what I'm saying now. And then let's not forget one more thing. If you're paying attention to this chart, you go look at what Venus is doing with Chiron. And so on that end,
from
where we just came from a Chiron conversation,
yes,
continues here, right?
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Apparently, a linden tea helps when you have a hard Chiron aspect. So just because you know how in the mythology, the mother of Chiron, she became a linden tree. I mean, Zeus made her a linden tree. Anyway, so if you have a linden tea, it's just a story, but it can help you with hard Chiron aspects. So for you Chiron return people, linden tea with a little bit of cinnamon stick in it, and enjoy.
Wow, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
let's do that right now.
I'm currently Chiron is clearing my Venus or vice versa. I don't know. Anyway, I'm drinking linden tea every day.
Jasmina, what you're talking about in general, though, you're talking about basic human stuff with remediations. Okay, so you're talking about basic ways for us as human beings over time. You learned that from somewhere that carried over to you.
Yes.
I think here, and I'll shut up here after that. I just have to say this. It's like the Virgo story to me, I love, is so fascinating because we hear this thing about service and to do and work and all that, but I think it's a very holy sign in its own ritual, in its own way of what I picture Virgo, Mercury, Virgo, Venus, and Virgo. Like if you walked into their place, it's an apothecary. Just their house just happens to be an apothecary, and there's you walk out to the garden, and they're picking things off the plants, and they're making their teas and their thing, and it's to find purity and health within the system. And Pisces is trying to do the same thing in a different way. They have their other way of going beyond or going within to connect to the light, or to, in a sense of pureness and light, right? So it's funny. It's like they both do it. They just do it in different ways. So it's like, you combine those things. So something that you just said that's simple. Like you make this tea, like for the Chiron story, right? Does this tea, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's not a joke. That's real. It's a very real thing. And I'm saying this for people watching who are walking towards the rational part of life and what's happened with this in our society. And a lot of it is a rebelliousness, or they see old ways of working, old medicines, which are really coming from a more, in my opinion, feminine archetypes. And that's very powerful. And you're going to see anybody, people out of the blue, try to suppress that. So, for me, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's like just to remember, like dynamics of a chart, or how it plays out in their life. Something beautiful, very straightforward and simple. You said, Jasmina, about a tea, so one can feel better.
Yes.
And that's what
I will give you another tip. This is for Chiron. I mean, it works. I drink lemon tea, and I'll give you another tip. When you have a Virgo, because you mentioned Virgo now, when you have a Virgo transit that is hard and your digestive system is affected, chamomile is always the best solution. Chamomile tea.
Nice.
Trust me, guys. The best. So those two.
Finding out more about you, Jasmina. You got secrets over there.
Well, one thing at a time. I know a lot of information. My Gemini stellium is always learning something.
Nice.
Okay, so what we have here is the last eclipse of the next year. Is a solar eclipse on October 2nd at 10 degrees Libra, with Mercury there, with Venus there, opposing. So that's it. Yeah, that's it for now. Yeah, they're gonna square Mars loosely.
Interesting.
So what do you guys think? Yeah.
Grand trine. I can't help but see the grand trines. That's a grand between Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is nice, isn't it? It's lovely.
We haven't seen these in any of the eclipse charts. We haven't had like something like this. This is good.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be air and water. Air and water chart.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's like emotional intelligence. I always feel that people who have a lot of air and water, they're like emotionally intelligent.
Like that. Can think of new ways that we can express the Libra principle in our lives as well. This energy of the grand trying to heal emotions, resentments, things going on to. I always think about South Node in Libra, and I have a moon in Libra. I always think about times yes to things we didn't want to. Just it's like why did I say yes in any situation? But I think elevated ways to come and to do the Libra, in our lives somehow. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I always think South Node eclipses are very much our invitation to let go of something. In particular, like what it's followed. I really, given it's the last eclipse of this pairing, but also of the year, I would also consider what's been the cumulative effect of the whole year. And again, is it on one of your planets or angles. It's right on my natal Pluto in Libra. So it looks like quite a busy time for me as well. Again, it's obviously quite a big year for me next year. But yeah, like I just I love the fact that Mercury is so available. Love the groundwater trine.
I mean, the Venus and Mars speak so nicely to each other, and they are in charge of this eclipse. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're both at 11 degrees, aren't they? They're sort of semi-sextile to each other, and I think they are very sort of like much like siblings. They're able to help each other out. Ceres is also, I know we're not using necessarily, I mean, I noticed Ceres is also at 11 degrees, working with the Venus energy really beautifully. I don't know. I think it might be here to almost correct where we've overdone things, from earlier on in the year, and to let us know that actually we've completed on a lot of things, and literally the last thing for us to do is to kind of balance it out and then cut it off, let it go.
So in general, we could say that the first half of the year is going to be much harder and stronger, and then the last few months, maybe last quarter.
Well, I think the last quarter is going to be quite interesting, actually, because, I mean, with this eclipse, one thing I do notice is, you've got Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon in a square to Mars. And towards the end of the year, Mars is coming to slow down. He's making a series of oppositions to Pluto. I don't think that happens. I think the first one happens in November.
Louisa, Mars is going to go into his shadow on the 5th of October.
Right.
So he starts the shadow on the 5th of October, just 3 days after this eclipse.
Yeah.
And then he goes retrograde on the 6th of December.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we haven't really spoken about yet. But I also, I mean, given that like there's the Mars Casimi that many of us were talking about last week in the sign of Scorpio, the two rulers, Mars and Pluto, this year on Valentine's Day, Mars is exactly in a conjunction with Pluto, which sort of gets my attention. And then later on in the year, he goes into opposition on the 3rd of November. And like you say, Jasmina, he's, Mars is slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde. And obviously Mars doesn't go retrograde that often, but he does start to go retrograde right at the end of the year. So I think, this last eclipse, it's almost like deal with as much as you can, because I think like Mars and Pluto are essentially in opposition. Like Mars is retrograde and in opposition to Pluto, and makes that opposition 3 times, I think, maybe even 4. So it's in November. Then I think it's I've got the dates written down somewhere.
Also, just a note, Jupiter is gonna go to retrograde on 9th of October. It's also just a few days. So but Mars like shadow, Jupiter is going retrograde. So this is gonna be it's gonna
Mars is exactly in opposition to Pluto on the 3rd of November, and then again in January or February, and then I mean this is obviously in 2025. And then on the 27th of April, he's in his last opposition to Pluto. Exactly. But obviously, they take a while to come into their opposition, and then they sort of, they're applying and then they're separating. It's a long time for the energy of Mars and Pluto to be in opposition. And given what's shifting in the world and how ideas are shifting, I think this last eclipse is very much like clear the decks, find the peace, get in the garden, get all the skills that you need, because we might be in for a tough time. Like Mars and Pluto are about surviving, and they are about drawing a line. They are quite boundaried, but I always think with Pluto, and I love Pluto, it's one of my favorite subjects, but I think Pluto shows us where we need to surrender, and where if we're lying to ourselves, it always goes wrong. You know, like Pluto brings us to our knees if we don't work with Pluto. And so I think all these eclipses, we need to, you know, if we want to, I don't want to sound like it's a threat or anything, but I think it's time to shift and time to release what's no longer needed. So as these even more stressful times that might be coming in and affecting the whole world, and everyone could be shifting and reacting to this Mars and Pluto oppositions, that you've cleared yourself from as many triggers as possible. Because like you said earlier, Nicholas and Fernanda and Jasmina, I think, you know, we're all in agreement that it's very easy to have kind of road rage behind your computer screen. So I think building relationships, which is, you know, what we were talking at the start with Jupiter and Gemini and all that Gemini energy, build relationships, build really real, authentic relationships as soon as you can and work on them, because we're going to need them. Anyway,
Awesome.
I wonder what other people think, because I can get a little bit maudlin at times. I see it as a huge opportunity, but I can be a bit doom and gloom at times.
You know, it's interesting. If we think about right now and the eclipses that we just had, you know, if you're a Libra or Aries, and here we are a year later, right, in the story.
Yes.
And, you know, another South Node type of thing of purging, letting go is one way to look at that. If you notice too here, I think it's the day before that Mercury goes through the sun here. There's a conjunction with Mercury here, but I think it's fascinating that a lot of the eclipses this year to have this kind of thing where the ruler of this new moon is in Scorpio, and it is making that grand trine. And we do have the cardinal square with Mars, which can someone access these water placements? And if we're to what you said, Louisa, about the relational things, you know, Jupiter and Gemini and going out and socializing, then do we get past that? And do we get past the mind and the politics of relationships with Libra? Because they're the best at it.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're grateful for what they're doing. But there's something here with these eclipses with the Libra story and archetype that is changing. And you know, and I think when we get into out of our heads, and if the conversations and the way we are relating, it's individually with your partner, it's with a group of people, it's with family, whatever, it could be a lot of family stuff in this chart. And I'll get to say that in a second here, why. But it's like, if can get through that part and get to the place of building trust slowly, which we know leads to intimacy.
Yeah.
The ruler of this is Venus and Scorpio, which is all about this. And if it's flowing with Mars in Cancer and Saturn is holding it up, this is a feeling-based thing. Even though it's happening in an air sign, it's a lot of water, and it's in a good way. And so what happens in relationships, if we want to move through things, or we're purging and letting go, or shifting, you know, we get to this place about the vulnerability again and the emotional content, not just what's up in here.
Yeah.
You know, it's what is beyond all that, and the sharing and the exchange of that, right? Of most kind, and listening in those ways too, listening in those other ways. A lot, you know, some of the things we talked about today too about communication and this and that. We got to remember the listening part of it, right? And you know, and I think when we're doing that in the emotional places and the processing that happens there, I like this particular eclipse, even though eclipses suck a lot of times because of the extremeness, right? Depending if someone's got cardinal degrees here or whatever, but you know, you have something in play. You have some cards you can use, water cards here, and an amazing configuration in my mind. I mean, since we're going to bring in Chiron, we see what Jupiter's doing with Chiron here with the sextile. If we're going to continue the story, right, along with it. But in general, like the Venus in Virgo, or excuse me, Venus in Scorpio, which I love, as people who know me, I love Scorpio placements. I'm all about this. If we take into account right now in the eclipses that happen, earlier this year when we started off the Aries eclipse, the 29 degrees that happened there in April. And then here we are next year, here we are. And if we're thinking as story, right? If we're thinking if people have this in their chart and they're learning and crashing and burning and falling and then getting back up and they're trying to figure out the Mars-Venus story, the Aries-Libra story. If we get to this point in the story after a series of eclipses, I'm like, hey, I can't wait to talk to people about how to utilize Venus, Mars, and Saturn in water signs. I can't wait to help remediate or come up with tools and homework with people. I'm all about this. I'm like, this. I mean, if we're looking at the other eclipses, I just, I'm going to go cry now. No, I'm just joking. I'm playing, but you see what I'm saying?
Do you know what? I feel like we've created, or we've all created together, this like place that's really safe to talk. And so in between charts, I've been feeling like this like dopamine hit, like this massive cuddle energy. I think it's really lovely.
Yeah. This is good. Okay, so I don't want to keep you guys longer. I have like a final thoughts on next year in general, like a summary, because we've been through a lot, really a lot to ponder and think about. So some kind of final thoughts.
Okay, my final thought is this is the year, or this is a really good opportunity for us to feel empowered and to move on with something. There's a lot of real moving and shaking energy. I think this is one where people can make some remarkable leaps forward. And I also suspect some people might really struggle with it as well. Like, I think the people that are really ready and like bring it on, I think they could really do some great stuff.
Awesome.
And I think we all need to be around to help the people who do want to move on, but also the ones who might not have seen this coming, and who are really struggling. So I think there will be a lot of people that need a lot of help.
Support and guidance to each other. Yeah. Absolutely. Fernanda, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is I'm still obsessed about that Jupiter conjunction. Like I said, I'm preparing this talk, so I'm looking into that. I think like have your breakthroughs, show yourself to the world, the things that you've been wanting to do, your special, think about prayers in relation to Leo, and can we balance that energy of being ours? It's like your specialness into use that Jupiter to pull you in the place that you want to be, and the last thing I want to say is a very strong Jupiter year, so grow with that energy, embrace it and go for it, have the courage, and if you need guidance, we're here. We're all here. That's what I want to say. Thank you so much for the invitation. Great. I love the cuddle energy, Louisa. I absolutely feel it as well. So it's great.
Nicholas, I've really enjoyed
this. For those in the United States, we're going to go into one of the most volatile years we've seen for a long time. So if you're in the United States, prepare for that. Know what your tincture is, what your cup of tea is, the place that gives you calm, how you deal with your relationships. If we use the eclipses as a guide, we know it's still a Mars-Venus story next year, right? We know that. We have a major transition happening slowly with Pluto. By the time we get to end of next year, Pluto's finally going to be out of Capricorn. This is all happening during a major presidential election in the United States. So if you just look at the last 10 to 12 years, for those in the US, it's going to be volatile. If you're going to participate in those type of things, know what your medicine bag is to take care of yourself emotionally and mentally. If you're not into that, that's cool. You do whatever you want, but just being real here. The type of rhetoric and the type of energy that's going to go back and forth is going to be amped up even more than it is now. So so I just want to point that out for those who are involved in that. Everything we talked about in the story, in the end, yeah, it's a big Jupiter year, that's for sure. I am a big proponent of ritual. I think life is a ritual constantly in every little thing that we do. I'm a spiritual person. I'm into that. If you're into that too, you have your ways. That's where you go, right? That's where you go. That's your place of regeneration, right? A place of healing, of comfort, and pleasure. Let's not forget about this too.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to end here.
No, I like that, because Venus is about pleasure, and it's about Venus next year. Yeah.
We deserve pleasure, right? To be in pleasurable situations. How we do it is the key, right? Some of us have history. We're running into situations and we know people that they're pleasure seeking through certain vehicles in places that are detrimental to themselves, right? And there's deeper reasons for that. But in general, like as for the pleasure principles, what gives you pleasure really has to do with creation and really has to do with one's heart and where they stand. So if it's volatile certain times of the eclipses, or there's certain things happening, whatever, remember what gives you pleasure, what gives you happiness. You know, if it's that cup of tea that Jasmina's talked about, you know, to help your Chiron. Is it we are in some place, but hey, let's go walk into the garden just to level out and ground ourselves? Yeah. I'm all about the senses and I'm all about ritual. So that's what I think about next year, regardless of the transits, is to remember your innate human right, what you deserve, and you deserve to be happy, and you deserve to have pleasure in your life. So you got somebody in your world you can kiss, and they're going to kiss you back. We'll go 100% on the kiss. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's gonna make me cry.
It's like, and if you're alone out there, and you find your place, your temple, your ritual, you kiss yourself. You look in the mirror, or you find the things that are reflective of your worth and self-value, and you honor yourself, and you give yourself the pleasure. Like you get to have that. Okay, so that's how what I think about next year and so on and so forth. So
I will not add anything after this because I'm very emotional now. Thank you, Nicholas.
Can I really want to thank you for inviting me on here and for setting this up, because it's been really phenomenal. And I really want to put a shout out to all the amazing people that have been chatting in the chat room. It's incredible. You've all shared so much about your own charts and what you're going through. And we see you. I just want you to know that we see you. I think it's amazing. It's a really lovely heart outpouring.
I wanna thank all three of you for taking your time to be here today to help with your knowledge and insights. I love the spiritual cuddles, Fernanda. I love your wisdom, Nicholas. You always inspire me. And Louisa, your care is just beyond. Every time we talk to each other, I want to thank everybody for their beautiful words and support of us here. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Please follow all of my friends on their YouTubes. Tune into their. You can follow what is happening week to week, month to month, in more detail than today. Today we just wanted to give you an overall picture of what's happening, and that's all.
Wait, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Maybe we could do this really quick?
Yes.
Okay. Fernanda, where can people find out more about you?
Yes, please. I forgot. See, I was going to say that, and then I got all this.
Gemini helping a Gemini. That's what's going on here.
It's nice. As my normal going. So I've got my hitchhiking stars. You can website piva.co, so CO, and hitchhiking stars issues as well. So and the old Twitter and etc. Yeah.
And if you want a reading in Portuguese, Fernanda is.
Oh wow, Fernanda.
Yeah.
I have people. I don't speak Portuguese yet.
Oh, nice. Send them to me. Yeah.
So I will send them you. Yeah.
I'm doing my North Node in Libra, guys.
That-
I'm connecting. I'm connecting and I'm collaborating. That's my North Node in Libra. I'm so happy that I could help.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Louisa,
My
where
North
can
Node
people-
is in Gemini as well, so keep the Gemini energy. I love it. Yeah.
Well, you can all find me on Feel Good Astrology on YouTube. I would direct you to my website, but I need to give it a bit of an overhaul. That's feelgoodastrology.com. But just get in touch. Under all my videos, I've got my email address. If you want to work with me, then feel free. I'm up for that. Though I'm actually going to give myself, talking about self-care, I'm actually going to take 6 weeks off from just
Good
before
for
Christmas.
you.
I realise I've been working my nuts off.
Nice.
And you know what? I don't want to work with lots of people every day. I want to work like real sort of like detail and have the luxury of really feeling something, like feeling someone, obviously not feeling somebody, but really, I'm really a bigger connection going forwards. So I'm really looking to overhaul how I work. So yeah, you can find me there. But I've also got another channel called the Barefoot Broadcast, and it's not astrology based, but it is all about healing, and it is all about strategies and helping yourself. And I interview people, coaches, healers, people from all over the world that have had different experiences and stuff. So if you also like to have a chat and hear more about healing journeys and stuff like that, then you can also join me there. I'd love to see you.
Nice.
Awesome. Nicholas?
My website is sparklesofgold, .com, which is going through an overhaul. I still have it up there. You can, if you're interested in who I am, bookings and other things, you can go there. I have a podcast, and I have a branch off of my podcast where it's called 3 Questions with an Astrologer. You can hear interviews I've done in the past. Got stuff from Demetra George and Ray Sapp from the Mountain Astrologer. A bunch of people, Chris Brennan. You could see my informal talks with them. It's audio only. Obviously, there's my YouTube channel, which I will be pushing even more here. I love YouTube and what's happened to me here. I will be in Tucson, Arizona in March for a live podcast, a live audience, part of Cosmos Astrology. I got invited there. I'll be there on the 15th of March. And there's other things that I'm working on behind the scenes, and then obviously there's my one-on-one client practice, so on and so forth. If you want to know more about me, you can watch a live stream I did yesterday, and you see who I am and how weird I am. So there's more of that coming. There's more of that.
So all the information will be below in the description, where you can find these beautiful people. You can find me on jasminabrozovicastrology.com or Instagram. I have the same handle everywhere. And the way I use the fun fact is why I use my whole name, because there's an asteroid Brozovic on my ascendant. So
really,
Nice.
there's this girl, Korean girl who worked in NASA. She found this asteroid. We share the last name, so I thought, maybe it's a sign.
Wow, that's cool.
It's very random, right? So I thought maybe it's a sign. And then I'm doing a workshop on how to achieve elemental balance, really basic workshop. You don't need any prior astrological knowledge. I'm going to do like a small group. It's going to be interactive, and I want to do your charts and give you tips for your just for elemental and modality balance to see how that works for you. That's in January for me.
Nice.
That's
Can
it.
I say something quickly as well? You talked about the workshop,
please.
and I forgot. I'm giving a workshop about Chiron as well in December. So we've been talking about Chiron so much. So if anyone is interested as well, please get in touch. That's very quick announcement.
Awesome. Especially now with our Chiron talk, I think many people will be interested in that as well. Thanks for thanks for supporting us and being here. Thank you all for coming. This was a pleasure. And until next time, bye everybody.
Everyone.